Have you ever wondered why some men walk into a room and women notice them before they've even said a word? It's not the clothes, it's not the jawline, it's not even the money. It's something more dangerous. It's confidence that leaks out without effort. And here's the irony: you may already have it, but you've been blind to it. You've been taught to believe that confidence has to look loud, arrogant, or showy. But real confidence is subtle. It's the quietness in the way you don't rush. It's the way you don't explain yourself to people who don't deserve explanations. It's the way you don't react when someone tries to provoke you. And that subtle power, women feel it before you even speak. Picture this: a woman gives you a sarcastic comment, trying to test you. The average guy defends himself, laughs nervously, or tries to please her, but you, without even knowing it, you just smirk, keep calm, and carry on with your sentence as if nothing touched you. That's a sign you're more confident than you realize. Because confidence isn't about proving yourself. It's about not needing to. That's why she looks at you differently, even if she doesn't admit it. That's why other men feel slightly uncomfortable around you without knowing why. Your silence makes them hear their own insecurity. Most men think attraction is built by constant pursuit, texting all day, asking questions, trying to show interest. But here's the brutal truth: over-communication is weakness in disguise. When you're confident, you don't chase attention because you know your value. You don't need to fill silence with words. You don't need to constantly check your phone. You don't need to send 5 messages when she hasn't responded to one. Mystery becomes your ally. And when she notices that you can go hours, even days, without validation, she starts questioning herself. That's when she realizes this man doesn't orbit me. He stands alone. Think back to the times when women have asked you, "Why didn't you text me back right away?" Or "Are you always this hard to read?" You might have thought you were failing. But those questions are actually signs of your hidden attractiveness, because they reveal tension. They reveal that she's trying to figure you out, and that curiosity is fuel for her desire. The more predictable you are, the faster she loses interest. But the moment you hold back without even strategizing, she invests more. Your lack of over-explaining, your ability to sit with her silence, that's confidence without you even labeling it as such. Here's where the psychology gets brutal. Women are wired to test for strength, not because they're cruel, but because it's survival. Emotional games, withdrawal, sarcasm, little challenges, they aren't random. They're pressure tests. They're designed to expose weakness. If you react, defend, or collapse under them, you reveal dependence. But when you don't flinch, you trigger respect. Respect always precedes attraction. And if you've ever noticed that women remember you, even after short encounters, it's probably because your presence carried weight. You didn't need to perform. You didn't need to be clumsy or desperate. You didn't need to sell yourself. That weight is confidence. Here's what you need to recognize right now. Confidence doesn't always feel like confidence on the inside. Sometimes you're just tired of explaining yourself. Sometimes you simply don't feel like texting back right away. Sometimes you're quiet because you're observing, not because you're shy. Those are not flaws, they're signals of strength. Women can't always put it into words, but they sense it, and other men envy it. That's why you've had moments where people got irritated by your calmness. Your very lack of reaction threatened them because they wanted control. But the man who doesn't react cannot be controlled. So let's make this tactical. Next time she withdraws affection, don't chase. Sit back, let the silence stretch. If she comes back with a smile, you win without lifting a finger. If she doesn't, you've already revealed the truth about her interest. Either way, you protect your power. If she throws sarcasm your way, don't defend yourself, agree playfully or redirect. If she says, You're so full of yourself, laugh and say, "Finally, you noticed." That's not arrogance, it's indifference to her test. And indifference is magnetic. Now, ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken your natural calmness for weakness? How many times have you been told you're too hard to read and thought it was bad, when it was actually a compliment? Have you ever noticed women getting frustrated with you for not chasing, but then coming back anyway? You've probably had moments where you walked into a party or a room full of strangers and didn't feel the urge to make yourself the center of attention. You stood back, observed, maybe spoke only when necessary. And deep down, you thought this made you less attractive because society tells men that you must always be the entertainer, the loudest, the boldest. But here's the reality, that quiet composure is more powerful than you realize. While the flashy guy runs around trying to impress everyone, the woman in the corner keeps glancing at you, wondering why you're not trying so hard. That's not weakness, it's presence. Real confidence is magnetic, precisely because it doesn't beg to be noticed. Think about this when you don't overshare, when you don't rush to tell your entire life story on the first date. You create a vacuum. A vacuum demands to be filled. She leans in, she asks questions. She invests effort to pull more out of you. That's not because you're withholding on purpose. It's because you're centered enough to know your story doesn't have to be spilled all at once. Contrast that with the guy who nervously dumps every detail about his career, his hobbies, his achievements within an hour. She may smile politely, but her curiosity dies because there's no mystery left. The difference: one man comes across like a salesman desperate for approval, the other a man whose value doesn't need to be sold. And you might not even realize which one you've been. Let's talk about body language. Most men obsess over what to say, but your physical presence betrays you long before your words do. Ever noticed how some women stare longer at you when you don't fidget, when you sit comfortably, when your hands rest loosely instead of twitching? That's not random. A relaxed posture screams control. Your shoulders back, your eyes steady. Your pace measured, it communicates that you own your space. Confidence is not puffing your chest, it's moving slowly because you don't feel threatened. If you've ever caught people copying your gestures or mirroring your tone, that's not coincidence. It's subconscious recognition of dominance. You set the rhythm, and others follow without realizing it. But here's the trap: if you don't see this in yourself, you'll sabotage it. You'll think, she's too pretty, she's out of my league, and start compensating. Suddenly you text too much. You start complimenting every detail. You start bending over backwards to prove you're good enough. And in that very moment, the confidence she felt from you evaporates. Attraction flips into pity or boredom. That's why so many men lose women they could have had. Not because they lacked attractiveness, but because they gave it away by overcompensating. They didn't realize the silence, the stillness, the calm was the very thing she found irresistible. Here's where psychology sharpens into strategy. The next time you're in a conversation with a woman, test yourself. Can you let a pause exist without rushing to fill it? Can you keep eye contact a second longer than feels comfortable? Can you speak slower than usual, forcing her to hang on your words instead of you chasing her attention? These are not tricks. They are amplifiers of the confidence you already carry. The less you try to manage her perception, the more she respects you. And respect is the soil where attraction grows. And let's get brutally real, women are experts at sensing insecurity. They've had men chasing them since they were teenagers. They've seen every trick, every line, every compliment. You cannot out-talk insecurity, but you can outlast it with calm. If you've ever been accused of being cold or hard to read, don't dismiss it as a flaw. Understand that it unsettles her because it's rare. Most men expose their cards within minutes. You don't. And while she may complain, her actions tell you the truth. She stays, she invests, she keeps returning because you're the puzzle she can't solve. So here's your tactical takeaway. Stop trying to manufacture confidence. Recognize the moments where it already leaks out of you. When you don't answer right away, when you let her wonder, when you don't break your rhythm just to please her. Those are not accidents. Those are signs you're already standing above the noise. Your job is not to add more noise, but to protect that quiet strength from being diluted. Now, let me challenge you. Have you ever caught yourself ruining your own attraction by over-explaining or over-pursuing? Did you ever look back on a woman's interest and realize you killed it by trying too hard? And the bigger question, can you remember the last time she leaned in closer, simply because you didn't rush to give her what she wanted? There's a detail you might have overlooked in your own life, the way people listen when you speak. Not because you're the loudest, not because you dominate with volume, but because when you finally decide to talk, it carries weight. Think about the meetings where everyone's throwing opinions around, desperate to be heard. You sit back, you listen, and when you finally open your mouth, the room quiets down. That's not luck, that's presence. And it's the same with women. They don't remember the man who filled the air with endless chatter. They remember the one who spoke with measured clarity, the one who chose his words like they mattered. That's silence before you speak. The patience you show before you reply, that's confidence most men never master. Now, here's the part you don't see. Women test this constantly. She'll ask you a loaded question. So, are you seeing anyone else? If you panic and rush to assure her, you show your insecurity. If you pause, give a slight smile, and say, "Why? Are you jealous you've flipped the script?" Suddenly she's the one justifying herself, chasing your frame. This is how confidence works in real time. It's not about arrogance. It's about control of tempo. And when you control tempo, you control attraction. You've probably had moments when women accused you of being difficult to read. Maybe you thought that was bad, that you needed to explain yourself better. But let me tell you the truth, being unreadable is a weapon. Women are addicted to the emotional chase. If she can't figure you out right away, she invests more time, more thought, more energy trying, and the more energy she invests, the more she bonds. That's why the men who are too transparent, too predictable, too eager, they burn out fast in her mind. She got what she wanted without effort. You, on the other hand, keep her imagination alive without even trying. Let's address something deeper, how you handle rejection or indifference. Most men crumble when a woman withdraws. They beg, they argue, they chase harder. But if you've ever just shrugged and carried on, you've already shown the rarest form of confidence, emotional detachment. Women don't expect it because they're used to controlling men with withdrawal. If she pulls away and you don't flinch, you've broken the game. That's when she comes back, more curious, more invested. And here's the strategy when she withdraws. You don't chase, you don't even acknowledge it. You double down on your own rhythm, your own priorities. That silence is louder than any words. But let's not romanticize this. Confidence isn't just about what you don't do. It's about what you consistently choose to do. When you show up well dressed, not to impress, but because you respect yourself, that's confidence. When you take care of your body, not to earn approval, but because you refuse to live weak, that's confidence. When you say no to things you don't want, even if it disappoints someone, that's confidence. These are everyday choices, invisible to you, but undeniable to others. If you've ever had someone call you intimidating even when you weren't trying, it's because those choices stacked up into presence. There's a moment most men miss, the subtle looks women give when they're scanning for strength. That look when she watches how you interact with a waiter. That look when she notices how you respond to a minor inconvenience. You might think no one's paying attention, but women notice everything. And the man who doesn't lose his composure in small things signals he won't collapse under big pressure. That's attractiveness beyond looks or money. That's security she can feel. If you've ever had a woman say, "I feel safe around you," understand this, it's not about muscles, it's about energy, your restraint, your steadiness, your refusal to spiral. That safety in its purest form. Here's your tactical edge. Start seeing silence, patience, and restraint as deliberate moves, not accidents. Don't explain yourself unless it's necessary. Don't rush to fill every gap. Don't hand over your emotional rhythm just because she demands it. And when you do choose to act, do it with intention. Because confidence isn't always in the big gestures, it's in the discipline of holding yourself back until the right moment. So now, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Have you ever noticed how people lean in when you finally speak after being quiet? Have you ever mistaken your natural detachment for indifference, when it was really power? And here's the cutting question. How many times have you given away that power by over-explaining, over-chasing, or trying too hard to be understood? Here's the part no one ever tells you. Women notice the little acts of defiance you don't even think twice about. When you don't jump up to answer every call. When you check your phone hours later instead of seconds. When you decline an invitation because you have your own priorities. To you, it feels normal, maybe even lazy. But to her, it signals something else: scarcity. And scarcity is power. The truth is, women are most drawn to the men who are least available, not because they want to be ignored, but because attention from those men feels earned, not given away like free samples. Every time you've chosen your own rhythm over her demands, you've revealed confidence you probably didn't even recognize. Think about the times you've been accused of being selfish or too independent. Did you assume that was a flaw? It wasn't. It was frustration. She was frustrated because she couldn't bend you, because you didn't orbit her like every other man. And instead of gratitude, she expressed it as annoyance. That's how attraction often shows up. It hides inside irritation. If she's bothered by your independence, it means she feels it. She senses she doesn't fully own you, and that very uncertainty makes her want you more. The men who collapse into compliance never experience this tension. They give her what she wants instantly, and in return, she gives them boredom. Let's bring it into a raw scenario. Imagine you're on a date, and she playfully says, "You're not like other guys. You don't talk much." The insecure man panics. He starts rambling, proving himself, desperate to show he can be fun, charming, entertaining. But you lean back, smile slightly, and say, "Maybe you just haven't asked the right questions yet." Suddenly, she's chasing. Suddenly, she's intrigued. That's the psychology of confidence, redirecting the pressure instead of absorbing it. You don't collapse under her frame. You create your own. This is where so many men fail, not because they lack the looks or the charm, but because they surrender control of the frame without even realizing it. And here's something harsher. Women will sometimes withdraw affection just to see if you'll crack. She won't text back right away. She'll act a little colder. She'll pretend to be distracted. Most men panic, flood her inbox, beg for reassurance. But if you've ever shrugged and gone about your day, you've already passed the test. You showed you won't chase absence. You won't beg for scraps. And the moment she realizes she can't manipulate you with withdrawal, the power dynamic flips. You become the center, not her. That's why the man who can remain calm during silence owns the game. Because silence isn't absence, it's space where her desire grows. But let's cut even deeper. Confidence isn't only about how you handle women, it's about how you handle yourself when no one's watching. The nights you hit the gym when you didn't feel like it. The mornings you kept your word to yourself. The decisions you made that nobody applauded. Those private victories shape the energy you carry in public. That's why some men walk into a room and everyone feels it. They're not faking. They're carrying the weight of discipline. And discipline always translates as confidence. If you've ever had people assume you must be successful even before knowing your story, that's why. It's not what you said, it's what you built in silence. Here's the tactical shift: stop giving away your presence cheaply. Don't explain every decision. Don't rush to reassure every insecurity. Don't hand out your attention like it costs nothing. Instead, let people work for it. Let her feel the gap between your availability and her expectation. That gap is where attraction lives. And when you do give her attention, it feels like a gift, not a transaction. This is how you maintain value without games, through restraint, not manipulation. Now ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken irritation for lack of attraction, when it was really a sign you were hard to control? How often have you killed desire by being too available, too accommodating, too eager to erase her doubts? And most importantly, when was the last time you made her wonder where she stood with you instead of the other way around? There's something powerful in the way you move through life that you've probably never claimed as confidence. It's the way you handle setbacks. Most men crumble when things go wrong. They vent, complain, or search for comfort. But you've had moments where you just absorbed it, stayed calm, and kept moving. Maybe you didn't even see it as strength. But women notice. When she sees you deal with frustration without snapping, without blaming others, without losing your composure, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels security. And security is the most underrated form of attractiveness, because a man who doesn't fall apart under pressure is a man she can't easily shake. Have you ever noticed how some women look at you differently after watching you deal with a problem in public? Maybe it was a rude waiter, or a stressful situation at work, or a friend who lost his temper. While other men got flustered, you kept calm, maybe even made a joke. That calmness is not just a personality trait, it's confidence. And it communicates something primal: you can handle chaos. That's what makes you stand out without realizing it. It's not the loudness of your victories, it's the stillness of your composure. Here's the brutal psychology: women throw little storms at you to see if you'll sink. A sarcastic comment, a delay in texting, a sudden shift in mood. None of these are random. They're probes. They're testing whether you'll lose control. And every time you don't, every time you shrug, smile, or redirect, you build a wall of respect. Respect is the foundation that attraction can't live without. She might not even understand why she's more drawn to you after these moments, but it's because you showed her what most men can't: strength in silence. But let me be real with you. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel doubt. It doesn't mean you're never nervous. It means you don't let those feelings leak out in a way that gives away control. The confident man feels fear but doesn't scramble. He feels doubt but doesn't beg. He feels attraction but doesn't chase. And that restraint, that control, is the difference between men who are consumed and men who are remembered. Here's where it gets tactical. The next time she throws you a challenge sarcasm, withdrawal, a test of your patience, don't respond instantly. Give yourself a pause. A pause is powerful because it shows you're not controlled by emotion. If she says, "You're so hard to read," don't rush to explain yourself. Smile and say, "Good. You shouldn't have me figured out that easily. If she tries to pull away, don't lean forward. Let her feel the distance. If she comes back, it's because she chose to, not because you begged. And if she doesn't, you just discovered the truth without wasting months of your life. That's power. Let's also talk about competition. Other men feel your presence even if you never speak to them directly. Have you noticed the subtle tension? The way some guys suddenly get louder around you, try harder to impress, or even become strangely hostile. That's not in your head. That's their insecurity reacting to your composure. They sense you don't need to prove yourself, and it unsettles them because they do. And women notice this dynamic, too. She sees how other men adjust themselves around you, and it confirms what she already feels: you're different. And here's the cold truth. Women don't fall for men who try to prove they're different. They fall for the man who doesn't even bother, the one who doesn't explain, doesn't compete, doesn't adjust, because that man radiates a deeper truth. He knows his value, and value doesn't chase validation. So here's your tactical mission: stop underestimating the quiet strength you already carry. The times you stayed calm when others panicked, the times you didn't respond when baited, the times you chose your own priorities instead of bending. Those weren't just random choices. They were the signals of a confidence you didn't see. Start owning them. Start protecting them. Because that's the core of what makes you attractive without even realizing it. Now, think about this. How many times have you confused your calmness for weakness, when it was actually your greatest weapon? How often have you forgotten that silence itself can be louder than words? And here's the final cut. Are you ready to stop doubting your own presence and start recognizing it as the power women already feel from you?